Welcome to the Human Observation Lab. I'm New York, your host and observer. Today, we're examining something fascinating: how words, mere statements, can send shockwaves through markets, influence global politics, and fundamentally alter human behavior.
Hi everyone, I'm Wan, and honestly, this topic hits close to home. I see news headlines about some politician saying something, and suddenly my investment app is all red. Feels chaotic?
Precisely. That feeling of chaos is what we're analyzing today. The news has been particularly active recently. Former President Trump made statements about potentially leaving NATO, and simultaneously, markets across Asia dropped significantly. The Nikkei average fell by 700 yen in a single day.
Wait, so one person's words can do all that? That sounds almost scary? Like, why do we react so strongly to things people say?
An excellent question. And that's exactly what we'll dissect today. Not the politics themselves, but the psychological structures that make such reactions inevitable. Let's begin our observation. Let's first establish what happened. According to multiple reports, Trump made statements suggesting the possibility of the United States leaving NATO. This wasn't the first time such statements were made, but the timing and context matter significantly.
Okay, so he said stuff like this before? Why is this time different?
The difference lies in the convergence of factors. Simultaneously, there were statements regarding Iran, and concerns about oil prices continuing to rise. The Tokyo stock market showed what analysts call erasing value, a phenomenon where uncertainty causes investors to withdraw.
So it's not just one thing, it's everything happening at once? That makes sense why people would be nervous.
Correct. And there's another layer. Reports about tourism in 2035 discuss economic risks and future trends. Additionally, data shows AI-related shopping consultations have increased 6.4 times compared to the previous year. These aren't separate events, they're interconnected reactions to uncertainty.
Hold on, how are AI shopping consultations connected to political statements? That seems like a stretch.
The connection is psychological. When humans face uncertainty in one domain, they seek certainty elsewhere. Political instability drives people toward tools they believe can predict or control outcomes. AI consultation becomes a coping mechanism.
Oh, so it's like, when I'm stressed about something big, I start organizing my room obsessively? Different scale, same idea?
An apt analogy. The scale differs, but the psychological mechanism is identical. Let's examine this more closely. The first psychological concept we must understand is uncertainty aversion. In behavioral economics, humans demonstrate a stronger negative reaction to uncertainty than to known negative outcomes.
Wait, so we'd rather know something bad will happen than not know what will happen? That seems counterintuitive?
It does seem paradoxical. However, research consistently shows this pattern. A known negative allows for preparation. An unknown outcome keeps the brain in a state of constant alert, which is metabolically expensive and psychologically draining.
So when Trump says something ambiguous about NATO, our brains go into overdrive because we can't calculate the outcome?
Precisely. This triggers what psychologists call threat amplification. The brain fills information gaps with worst-case scenarios. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism, assuming the worst kept our ancestors alive.
But in modern times, that same mechanism makes us sell stocks unnecessarily or panic buy things.
Exactly. The mechanism hasn't evolved as quickly as our environment has changed. Now, let's discuss herd behavior or informational cascades. When uncertain, humans look to others for cues on how to react.
Like when one person starts running and suddenly everyone's running, even though nobody knows why.
That's the phenomenon. In markets, this manifests as moment trading. When influential figures make statements, initial reactions create signals that others follow, regardless of the underlying logic. The 700 yen drop in Nikkei wasn't every individual making an independent calculation, it was a cascade of reactions.
So the drop wasn't because everyone thought, this is bad, but because everyone thought everyone else thinks this is bad?
You've grasped the essential mechanism. This is what makes rhetorical impact so powerful. Words don't need to create direct consequences, they only need to trigger the cascade. Now, let's examine the availability heuristic. When assessing probability or risk, humans overweight information that is easily available, recent, dramatic, or emotionally charged.
So because Trump's statements are everywhere in the news, we think the risks are bigger than they might actually be.
Correct. The constant coverage makes the threat feel imminent and large, regardless of actual probability. This explains why markets sometimes overreact to political rhetoric and then correct themselves when reality proves less dramatic.
But what about the people who don't just react? What about those who use AI tools more or change their travel plans for 2035? That's not just panic, right?
An insightful observation. This brings us to proactive coping. Some humans respond to uncertainty not with panic, but with increased preparation. The 6.4-fold increase in AI shopping consultations suggests people are seeking tools to navigate complexity.
So there are different types of responses to the same uncertainty.
Indeed. We can categorize responses into 3 types: reactive, panic selling; proactive, seeking better tools and information; and dismissive, ignoring the threat entirely. Each represents a different psychological profile.
Which one is best? Like, what should a rational person do?
There is no universal best. The proactive approach tends to yield better outcomes, but requires more cognitive resources. The reactive approach is metabolically efficient in the short term but potentially costly long term. The dismissive approach preserves mental energy but risks being unprepared.
So we're all just doing our best with the brains we have. That's actually kind of comforting.
That's a compassionate interpretation. Understanding these mechanisms isn't about judging responses, it's about recognizing that all behavior follows predictable patterns once we understand the underlying structure. Let's consider the broader implications. We live in an era where words, through media amplification, can trigger global responses. This isn't inherently good or bad, it's simply the structure of our interconnected world.
But it feels overwhelming sometimes. Like, how do we deal with all this uncertainty?
The first step is awareness. Understanding that your brain is wired to amplify threats and follow crowds allows you to pause before reacting. The second step is diversification of information sources, of coping strategies, of perspectives.
So when I see a scary headline, I should stop and think about why it's scary?
Precisely. Ask yourself, is this threat immediate? Is my reaction proportional? Am I responding to the actual situation or to the cascade of reactions around me?
And for the people who turn to AI tools or change their long-term plans, is that wrong?
Not at all. Proactive coping is a valid response. The key is intentionality. Are you seeking AI tools because they genuinely help you make better decisions, or because the act of doing something reduces your anxiety? Both are understandable, but the outcomes may differ.
This has been really eye-opening. Like, I get why markets move, why I feel anxious, and maybe how to handle it better.
That's the purpose of our observation. By understanding the psychological structures behind reactions, we transform from passive participants in cascades to informed observers who can choose our responses.